Hey everybody, welcome to the Corn Teacher Diaries day. Who even knows at this point? We're approaching the end of the first week of continuous education, which has actually gone really smoothly, so I'm pretty happy about that. Today, as a little video, I wanted to show off the game that some of you popped in to play with me, for those of you that are maybe looking for something to keep you sane in the middle of this craziness. It's a little game called Illusion. You can buy it on Amazon for like 10 bucks, 10 to 15 bucks, and it's kind of a clever little game about optical illusions and being able to estimate the sizes of different colors that are represented on a card when they're all kind of overlapping like this. So it's really fun. I'm going to kind of do a little solo challenge with myself, kind of playing by myself in this moment to give you a feel for the game. But the game's really simple. What's going to happen is there's going to be a card that tells you what color you're arranging the picture cards by. And then you'll have some cards. So for example, maybe this is the first card that's drawn. And on your turn, you either draw a new card and then place that in the lineup and say, you know what? I think this has more red than this card. Okay? So you either add a card to the lineup or you challenge the lineup, which could be very, very long. So you might say, you know what? I think there's been a mistake somewhere along the way. At that point, you'd flip the cards around and you'd look at the percentages that are listed. So this card only has 12% of the area of the card is actually red, whereas this one is 23%. So that's kind of the heart of the game. You really are just placing a card, or you're challenging that there's a mistake somewhere. If you challenge and you're right, great, you get a point. You get this card as a point. If you're wrong, that sucks. You, unfortunately, don't get the point. In fact, your opponent gets the point if you're playing with two players. So it's kind of cool. Now, what will that look like in a solo game? Well, here's my best attempt at kind of setting something up. So I am going to try to kind of give myself a little bit of a platform to set this iPad up against, maybe. We'll see. That looks all right. And then, like I said, what I'm going to do is I'll have like some sort of card that says we want to arrange these by like red color. And for me, for the sake of today, I'm going to try to do 3 of these correctly before I do 3 of them incorrectly. And my challenge to myself is I'm going to try to put out 7 cards in a row in a way that is correct for whatever card it is. And if I'm correct, I'll score a point. If I'm incorrect, I will not score a point. So start out here. We've got, this is our starting card, which you can see here. It's got a fair amount of red. And the next card that I'm asked to place is this one. Now, the thing is I think this one has strictly less red than this one. Which you can kind of see side by side. It looks like it's pretty close. Like, this really doesn't have a ton, and some of it's covered up. But I don't think that the 1 question mark is quite enough, so we're going to place it like that. Next up, we've got this one. Now, of all the cards we've seen so far, I'm pretty confident to say this is the least red, so I'm going to put that down right there. Next up, we've got this one. Now, this is a little trickier because this one, you'll notice, it has some red writing, but some of it's actually covered up, and some of it's covering up other colors. Now, I think the thickness of these parts means it's probably slightly more red than this card, but I'm not quite sure. I'll say it's slightly more, so we'll go ahead and do it like that. So now we're up to 4 cards in a row. Again, we got to get to 7 before we flip them all over. Next up is this card. Now, this card has a fair amount of red, and my question is really whether it has more or less red than this one, because I feel like that's the closest match. Personally, I feel like there might be a little bit more red on here. I feel like if you kind of condensed all the red, it would end up being a little bit larger than this. And then does it have more than this? This is the next question, is how it would compare to this card right here. That's a little bit trickier to answer. Man, I don't know. I'm going to say it's slightly more. I'm going to say it's the most we've seen so far. Okay, next up is the hands. Now these are the hardest probably because there's a lot of empty spaces around the hands, but there's still a fair amount of red there. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say there's more red than there was in this question mark one, but there's less red than there was in this kind of funky star one. That's my thought. And last but not least, we're going to place this one in here. This one's got quite a bit of red. I'm going to say that's the most of what I've seen. So let's flip them over. We'll see. First off, I said this had the least red, and it looks like it has 3%. So 3% is our low bar. Next, we had this red card, which again, I don't think it was that much more, and it turns out it's exactly the same, 3%. So both of these, 3% of the surface area of the card is red. All right, next up, our question mark. Definitely more, that's 10%. Followed by our hands. Uh-oh, I've made a mistake. These hands have only 9% red, so they should actually be in front here. Let's see about the rest, though. 11% on here, so that's good. Next up, this one has 15%, so we're still good. And this one has 22. So unfortunately, made a mistake. I'm going to count that as a loss on that particular juncture. All right, let's try organizing blue this time. So let's see. First card that we start with is this one, which you can see decent amount of blue there. And unfortunately, we start with a really good challenge because how much blue does that have compared to this? Now, this has a lot of circles, so I'm going to say it's a little bit more, but it's definitely tough to tell. Next up, we have this one. Now, this one's deceptive, I think, because look at how much blue there is along this side. Again, is it more blue than this one? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, this is a fair amount of blue, and a lot of this is covered up. So I'm going to say it's like this so far. Okay, what about this one here? Well, this one seems to have the least blue of... Oh, I don't know. That big strip there, though. Man, that's tough. That's really tough. I'm going to say I think it still has the least. I think this mesh, if you kind of put it all together, would have quite a bit of blue. So I'm going to say it's the least so far, because that mesh seems to have a lot. Now, this one's easy for me. Pretty confident it's less than any of these, so we're up to 5. Ooh, now we've got these mushrooms, and these mushrooms don't have a ton, but they do have more than I think we'd give credit for, so I'm going to say it's more than this one, but it's less than this one, which seems reasonable. Last but not least, we've got this little triangle one. Now, this one's kind of tough. I think it definitely has more than this one. I'm pretty confident about that. Just looking at the two side by side, but I don't think it has much more. So I'm going to go ahead and put it there. I think the mushrooms are going to have a lot. So let's see. Again, we've got a 4% starting off. That's pretty good. Followed by this one, which is 5%. So that was good. After our 5% card, we have this mushroom card. This mushroom card, it turns out, has 9%. So we're still doing well. After the mushroom card, we have this card here, which is 11%. So actually, we're still doing great. After that, we've got this mesh, and it looks like we called it right. This is actually 12%. This is 11, this is 12. So really, there's actually more in here, even though it's a little bit more broken up. After that, we've got this one. Oh my, this has a lot more than I thought. This is 18% of the card is blue, which is a lot more than I suspected. But we're still okay. The last one comes down to this, and we're safe. This one's 23%. So we have the most blue on here. So count that as a win. So we're 1 for 1. All right, here we go. Next up, we're going to be sorting by green, it looks like this time. We'll start with this one. A lot of green around the borders. So that's kind of my baseline. And oh man, what a tough start. We're then followed up with this one. Now, I think just how much green there is here and up here, it's going to be more than what's available here. So I'm going to say this is quite a bit of green. Then we've got this one. Now, there's a lot of green here, but I don't think there's anywhere near as much as this one that had the green on the outside. There's just so much surrounding it. I'm going to say that's less. We've got our dots. I'm going to say this is the least so far. Not a lot of green there. Now we've got these. I feel like this has even less green than the dots did. Like, there's at least, 4 dots. Here we've just got 2 triangles, so put that there. Now we've got our heart. Again, I feel like the little heart is even less than these two things together because it's so thin, so I'll do that. And last but not least, we've got this one. Now, this one's going to be really tough. It's definitely more than the dots, I think. And then the question is it more than this one here? And I'm going to say it is. So let's see if that's the correct order. We've got our 7. This one had 2%. Yeah, not very much. This one actually, ironically, also has 2%. So these are actually a tie, so we're still safe. Next up, we said this one, which is 4%. So that's higher. Then, following that, we have this, which is 6%. So again, we're on the right track so far. Then we've got the one that was tough for me. But you know what? We got it. This is 7%. So more than this one. Next up, we have this one, which is 23. Holy cow, big jump. And then last but not least, let's see if this square really did have the most. And it does. This is 32%. So again, chalk that up to another win for us. All right, hopefully the last round, we'll have to see. We're going to flip this out. We're going to be finding ordering these in terms of red. So we're going to go ahead and start flipping these out. Here's our first card. These ones I hate. These ones are super deceptive. You saw me make a mistake earlier. Just all of these, or maybe it was just when I was playing live earlier, but all these triangles, these triangles and diamonds, they look like there's so much more area than they have, and it's never as much as you think, because there's so many white lines in between. Now this one, you know, even with this not having a lot, I still think this is less. I mean, I guess we have that big border around the outside, so I don't know. Oh, we have the red in the middle. You know what? I think all those things combined, I'm going to actually change this ordering. I think this is a little bit more because of the red in the middle and the red around the edges. What about this one, though? This one's a little bit tougher. Now, I think this one actually has quite a bit of red. If I was saying this had a fair amount of red, this has definitely got more. It's got all those circles, multiple layers, definitely more there. And now we have a tough call because this one is one big circle. How does that compare to all these other little circles? And that's really tough. This circle is so covered up, though. I'm going to say this is less. So we're at 4. What about this one? This one here, there's a lot of red splotches, you know. I think this is where this is so deceptive. I think this is actually more than this. Because there's similar number of figures, but look at how much white space there is between these. So I'm going to lock it in like that so far. So we're at these 5 in the line. Now we've got our red flowers. Now this is oh man, this is tough. I'm going to say it's slightly less than this circle over here that we were looking at earlier. I don't think it's that much red. Like, that's a lot of red. But I mean, there's a lot of red here too. It's a tough call. I'll go ahead and do that for now. And last but not least, we've got some words. I think this is the least red we've seen, period. So this is my lineup. Let's see. So first up, we have the words. Yeah, this is only 7% red. It's not a lot. There's so much white space. Not much there. After that, we have this one, which I always mention, always deceives me whenever there's triangles and diamonds. This is only 15% of the card. Look at that. It looks like it's just like maybe a fourth of the card or whatever. No, not even. 15%. Crazy. Next, we did these little clouds, which, again, it does turn out that these are more. So that was correct. This is only 15%. This is 18%. Again, a lot of big red blotches. Big help in kind of guiding that one. Then we did this one, which originally I dismissed. But you'll notice the thing that I caught that thankfully helped me place this, because this is correct, is there's so much red in the middle, and I saw at the last minute all this red around the border. Like, there is so much red around the border. It's a whole strip. So this is 20% red. All right, now comes the big test. This set of flowers is 28% red, which I knew was going to be more than this. But now we have to compare to this circle, and oh no, this is 24%. So really, these should be switched like this. And what about this one? Oh my gosh, this one's 25%. So this is supposedly a lot more red than I even realized, unfortunately. So that's those. That's another loss. We're 2-2. Let's see if we can finish it out strong looking at yellow. Yellow is one of my favorite colors. We'll start out with this one. A lot of yellow on that. Holy goodness, that is just a ton of yellow. And then we're going to move on to this one, which I think is somehow even more yellow. Like almost the entire card is yellow. So I'm going to say that. Now we've got an easy one. Yeah, that's the least so far. Now we've got this splotches one, but again, too much white around the outsides, I think, when we compare. Well, I don't know, because the tricky thing is this one has those triangles again, which I always overestimate the amount of area. So it's, man, I don't know if you could make a call there. It's really tough. Man, there's so much white space here too. I always underestimate these blotches. I'm just going to go with my gut and make it more. I've made that mistake so many times in this game. Now we've got this little circle of yellow on this card with this crazy face. Definitely the least. I feel 100% confident about that. Now we have more clouds. Now, these clouds are way less than these clouds, I think. It looks like this has much more clouds. This, again, we're kind of in the same boat, but because this has so many fewer clouds, I'm gonna actually give the upper hand to this one here. And last but not least, we've got this one. Ooh, we've got some yellow. I don't know if it's more than the clouds. I'm gonna put it here. So we'll see. So first up, we had this one. This one is pretty much a gimme. That's 2%. Followed by this one, which is 4%. Again, easy peasy. This one is 12%. So there's actually a lot more here than I suspected there would be, which is crazy. After that 12% one, whoops, as my iPad starts sliding away, we've got this one, these little blotchy ones. So this is 23% of the card is yellow. That is insane. But we'll see if it holds up. What is this one? Okay, this one is a lot. Oh, no, I might have made a big mistake. This is 32% of the card is yellow. That's a lot of yellow. This was the real test. So again, the triangles always throw me off. So I assumed there was less than my initial suspicion was because I always overestimate when there's triangles how much area there is. And it just so happens actually we're barely correct. This is 32% of the card. The yellow on here is 33% of the card. And I think it's just because there's so many big splotches everywhere. And the last but not least, I'm pretty confident on this one. Let's see. So this is 33%. This one is 40%. So again, way more. So we actually just barely did it. A 3-2 split. Now, some of you might have been watching that going, Laptad, why are you putting that card there? That's a terrible idea. You might have been correct. At which case, yeah, you might have made a better choice than me. But anyhow, this is how I spend my lazy Fridays. Hope yours is going well. Till next time.